sir.
Oh, then fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So today is 23 January 2024. This is the new year, and it is currently 9:40 at the moment. So
Okay.
hello everyone. My name is Vanshadavan, and today I have another guest with me. His name is Mr. S.N. Sahu. He has served as the former press secretary to the late President K Narayanan. He has been a director in the PMO's office under Manmohan Singh. He has also served as an officer of special duty, and he also writes articles for The Wire. Yes. So I would like to ask with the first question. Yes. How do you describe working with the late President Mr. K Narayanan? His soul rest in peace. And what reflections do you carry from working alongside with him as his press secretary?
Uh, yeah. Thank you so much uh, for creating an opportunity for me to interact with you. The point,
Yes, sir.
the question that you raised is about my experience with President Narayanan.
Yes, sir.
It was an extremely rewarding experience, particularly in terms of my exposure to reading, research, and making myself familiar with the writings of original writings of Mahatma Gandhi, B.R. Ambedkar, Jawaharlal Nehru, Swami Vivekananda, and so on and so forth. Because I was involved in drafting a text of his speech. I mean, let me make it very clear that he was his own speechwriter, but he used to tell me to give a well-researched draft, which he used to use to draft his own speech. So therefore, for preparing a well-researched draft speech, I had to read the original writings of Gandhi, Ambedkar, Swami Vivekananda, and even several other great leaders of India who shaped its destiny. So that way, I grew up intellectually. I grew up, in terms of cultivation of my mind while, working under him. And so it was a very, very illuminating experience and rewarding experience.
Okay. Yes. You have worked as both the press secretary to the president and director in PMO's office under Manmohan Singh.
Yeah, yeah.
Which work do you recount more fondly and why?
Well, I would give importance to both the works that I was asked to carry out, I mean, both in Rashtrapati Bhavan and Prime Minister's office. But certainly, I would give much more primacy to my experience in Rashtrapati Bhavan because of the kind of remarkable
Exposure.
mind that Mr. Narayanan had. Because of he was the president of India. He was 75. I think he was, by the time he was president, he was 77 or 75. And
Mr. K.
so K Narayanan.
Mr. Yes, Mr. K Narayanan had a very stern reputation. He was a very
Yeah. I mean,
straightforward person.
he was a product of London School of Economics. He was first class first in English literature from Travancore University in pre-independent India. And he came from very humble background, struggling in terms of meeting his, livelihood issues and pursuing studies. It was very difficult for his family to support him. He was supported by Mahatma Gandhi's Harijan Sevak Sangh, who
He has worked
occasionally...
alongside with multiple freedom fighters.
No, he didn't work actually. Actually, he interviewed Mahatma Gandhi as a young journalist on 10th April 1945. He interviewed Mahatma Gandhi when he was a journalist for Times of India, and that interview was remarkable.
Yes.
Similarly, I wrote an
So
article when
he also had a very a long history with the press.
Yeah, he was working with Hindu, Times of India, and then he got
Yes.
Tata Scholarship to go to London School of Economics, where he was, a student, and he was taught by, great illustrious professors like Harold Lasky, Karl Popper, and Harold Lasky incidentally also taught our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. And so that way, he had such a distinguished, career as a student. And so therefore he was
Yes.
shaped, sensitivity, and his mind was shaped by such great minds like Professor Harold Lasky. And so therefore, such a man in public life could emerge to occupy the highest office of our republic. And therefore, it was remarkable. I would say my experience in Rashtrapati Bhavan was extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. And of course, in Prime Minister's office was equally rewarding. But certainly, I would say that I would cherish my tenure in Rashtrapati Bhavan as OSD and Press Secretary to President Narayan.
Yes. So moving away from the personal part of this interview to the more political one, the last press conference held by an Indian Prime Minister was 10 years ago by former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. And he has a reputation of being very accountable. He has held over 114 press conferences in his working tenure, while the current Prime Minister hasn't even given a single interview where he is asked a hard question. Why is our Prime Minister so avoidant of the press, especially the press that is not lionizing him?
No, last point, can you repeat why he's avoiding press?
Yes. And why is he avoiding a press that isn't lionizing him, that isn't glorifying him?
Oh, acha, glorify. Okay, no. See, point is whether the press should lionize him or should subject him to scrutiny. Regardless of all these aspects, a prime minister need to be, facing the press, because press it is stated, and it is well known that it is the fourth pillar of democracy, and accountability of the government, to the people is translated through press. I mean, in a parliamentary democracy, the government is accountable to the legislature. All right, that is the objective of, for which our parliamentary democracy was set up by the Constituent Assembly, and Dr. Ambedkar explained it. We preferred parliamentary democracy to presidential system of government because we preferred accountability of the government to the legislature to the stability of the executive. In presidential form of government, the president is not accountable to the legislature. So therefore, the president is stable. The legislature cannot throw him out or her
Yes.
throughout. So this accountability of the government to the legislature in a parliamentary system of democracy is the cornerstone, a defining aspect of our governance system. So Prime Minister obviously is accountable to the legislature, but the accountability to the people is, of course, facilitated by the accountability to
The
the
press.
legislature. At the same time, it is also facilitated by his accountability, to the press, because press asks questions, press scrutinizes. The relationship between press and the government is cordial. The relationship is not, in terms of a cheerleader. Press cannot be cheerleader of the political regime. It has to put hard questions. It has to scrutinize. It has to unearth the, many shortcomings, or the, put into public domain the functioning of the political regime, so that people
Yes.
can understand what is going on, what are the flaws, what are the shortcomings, what are the achievements, and so on and so forth. So
Yes, sir.
that's the nature of the parliamentary democracy, and press obviously through its questions, through its scrutiny of the political regime, it actually contributes to the public reasoning. It's called public reasoning. Without, how can you reason or engage in public reasoning without questions, without scrutiny? So that kind of public reasoning keeps the government in alert. Government has to be all the time alert, to respond to the aspirations or anxieties, frustrations, and their they what they want from the government. So many issues which cannot be brought to light can be brought to light only by the press. No other agency can bring that. So probably he doesn't want, our present Prime Minister doesn't want scrutiny of his activities by the press,
Yes.
serious and hard scrutiny. Because you
Yes.
remember in his in that documentary, BBC documentary, which was
Yes.
banned by the government of India, and there he was asked a question, Mr. Chief Minister, when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat, Mr. Chief Minister, what lessons you'd learn from Gujarat riots? So he said, I think I could not manage the media. That was his response. So probably he
Yes.
believes more in managing the media than in facing the media. Or what do you call, very popularly known, a very familiar phrase, media's role to, put ask, what is that called, to ensure that the government faces truth. And truth is very, very inconvenient, at times. So probably he wants to manage media rather than face the truth, which would be placed by the media before the political regime.
Yes, sir. Um, Coming to the question of the media, in a matter of few years, our media went from being a democratic institution that the people in power used to fear, from being a institution that is kept in a short leash by the same powerful people it used to terrorize. How did we got here?
Well, you see, uh, there is a problem that is confronted in almost all democracies. Uh, the problem is that the media is gradually being controlled by the big business people, corporates. Okay, and the expansion of media, because of technology, let's say, because of the, let's say, application of electronics, the digital forms of communication, and several other forms of communication, say Facebook, Twitter, these Google platforms, we are interacting. So what has happened is that the neoliberal regimes which have come up across the world after the disintegration of Soviet Union, that neoliberal regime emphasized on private sector.
Yes.
It actually dismantled to a great extent the role of the state in looking after the basic needs of the people. So the corporate sector, the business conglomerates, the private huge financial or business bodies, they assumed importance in taking forward the cause of the economy. So when they took forward the cause of the economy, they remained at the center stage of governance. The state withdrew from key sectors, be it health, education, and other sectors. So because of such withdrawal of the state and primacy given to the private sector, particularly business houses, corporates, so they started assuming tremendous importance in defining politics, in shaping what kind of politics would emerge vis-a-vis the media. Okay, so therefore they also controlled media. So
Yes.
the neoliberal policies has given rise to conditions which help the corporates to control the media. See, for instance,
Yes.
we call America, in America, for instance, we certainly celebrate how the New York Times and Washington Post, they did put questions to President Trump, and who faced press conferences in White House. But same independent press in America, when it comes to the actions taken by Israel in Gaza, they do not, they support Israel. You see, on the question of Gaza, they are not with the suffering millions of Gaza people. So without, so therefore, this is a kind of problem. While in America, they hold their government to account, New York Times and Washington Post and so on and so forth. But when it comes to Israel's action in Gaza and the oppression against the Palestinians, they are not taking up the cause of the Palestinians. So, so this, here, why? Because after all, New York Times and Washington Post is also controlled by huge business
Yes.
conglomerates. So therefore, here in India, the same thing is happening. You see,
Yes, sir.
Christopher Jeffrell, he said that Narendra Modi is possibly the first prime minister to have been anointed by the corporates. And who are those corporates? It's well known. And those corporates
Yes.
control the whole of media. Even NDTV, which was functioning relatively independently, is now in the hands of a big corporate. And the
Adani.
name, yeah, Adani. And Mr. Adani, after taking over, he famously stated that it requires courage to appreciate the government.
Yes.
So I don't understand what courage is required to appreciate somebody. It requires courage to scrutinize the policies, to look at things critically, which is the role of the media. Primarily because of the neoliberal policies providing space, massive space to capital, massive space to corporates, business houses, therefore, they also thought while controlling politics, they will control one aspect of politics, that is media. So that is
Yes,
how
sir.
we have come to this position. But there is hope because independent journalism now thriving in digital spheres. I mean, look at the Wire, the News Click, the News Time of South India, or for that matter, several this Caravan digitally and this News Laundry. There are several such platforms. You find a critical approach, to public policies, critical approach to examine the political regimes,
Yes, sir.
and so there is some hope, but at the same time there is danger. The danger is that, you see, Facebook is controlled, Twitter is controlled.
क्या हो गया?